It's been 7 years since Nicki Minaj and Meek Mill ended their relationship, but the controversy surrounding it continues to escalate. Recently, Nicki began exposing Meek Mill for alleged violence during their 2-year relationship, including shocking claims that he physically assaulted her. These new allegations have resurfaced long-standing rumors that had remained largely unconfirmed until now.
Even weirder is when this lawsuit first dropped, this was the first thing Meek Mill posted on his story. I'm not embarrassed by anything I've been through. It might be tea for y'all, but it's a testimony for me.
Among the more disturbing claims is that Meek allegedly spit on her, an act that shocked many. The revelation has reignited widespread discussion. Their relationship, which began in 2015, seemed improbable to some observers. Despite both being prominent figures in hip-hop, many never expected them to become a couple. Nevertheless, the relationship progressed. Meek even joined Nicki as the opening act for the North American leg of her Pink Print tour. They stayed together for roughly 2 years, but over time, their dynamic deteriorated. Although the reasons behind their breakup were not made public back then, tensions eventually spilled over on social media, where they exchanged cryptic posts and veiled insults. The narrative shifted dramatically when Nicki posted a short clip from her documentary series Queen, the documentary, originally set to stream on HBO Max.
Mother would let my father be violent with her, and she always brings up the story. As a little girl, I would stand in front of my mother and go like this. And I vowed, like, that's why I'm, like, maybe some people would describe me as abrasive or bitchy or whatever, because I vowed from that age, no man would ever abuse me, call me out my name, treat me like that. And then all of a sudden,
the excerpt was under a minute long, yet carried emotional weight. It was a rare glimpse into a private chapter of her life, revealing emotional scars that had remained hidden from the public eye. Nicki Minaj became visibly emotional while sharing her story in the clip. It was clear the topic was difficult for her to address. She described experiencing violence from a former partner, but notably did not mention any names. She offered no specifics, no timeline, no identifiers, and no contextual clues about who the individual might be. This lack of detail left the public unable to determine who she was referencing. However, the situation took an unexpected turn shortly after the clip was released and the docuseries was announced.
We got into a super heated argument that got so bad that Meek had to be escorted out of the store.
Meek Mill issued Nicki a cease and desist letter regarding the documentary, instructing her not to mention him. This legal move raised eyebrows. Nicki had been in a 14-year relationship with Safari Samuels before dating Meek Mill. After breaking up with Meek, she also dated Nas for about a year. Yet, out of these 3 men, only Meek reacted with legal action following the clip's release. This reaction caused speculation to escalate. Many found it suspicious that Meek responded so strongly when no one had been named. Some interpreted his cease and desist as inadvertently confirming he was the man in question. Soon after, old footage of the former couple began to resurface, particularly one video where Meek appeared to be speaking harshly to Nicki in public. In the clip, her demeanor visibly changed. She began smiling, but after Meek said something, her expression quickly fell. Her posture shifted, and she avoided eye contact, prompting renewed concern among viewers about what may have occurred behind the scenes during their relationship. This development led to further speculation that Meek Mill may have been the person Nicki Minaj described as violent in her docuseries. Suspicion grew due to Meek's pattern of public criticism directed at Nicki following their breakup. For instance, after Nicki announced her engagement to Kenneth Petty, Meek released a track widely interpreted as a diss. In the lyrics, he lamented, "This that's beyond me. You supposed to be my Beyonce. Now you, expletive." The tone and timing of the track raised questions about his intentions. Tensions escalated further in 2020 when Nicki and Kenneth encountered Meek while shopping. According to reports, a heated verbal exchange ensued, leading to Meek being escorted from the store. The confrontation went viral, and speculation intensified when Meek was later seen liking a post from the Shade Room that mocked Kenneth's fashion sense, calling him out for dressing like a store mannequin. This prompted a strong response on social media. Nicki posted directly to Twitter, accusing Meek of obsession and implying that his behavior had crossed a line. In one post, she referenced the phrase, "trigger fingers turned to Twitter fingers," a clear rebuke of what she saw as performative online aggression. She further stated that Meek had been fixated on her current partner for over a year, even allegedly trying to view her page despite being blocked. On Instagram, she added more pointed commentary, suggesting Meek's actions were driven by clout and desperation. In her posts, she accused him of portraying strength online while having a past of alleged physical aggression. Though no names had been formally confirmed in her documentary clip, these social media posts further fueled the theory that Meek Mill was the individual she was referencing. Meek Mill later responded to the public accusations with serious counterclaims. He asserted that the only way his career could be harmed was by alleging he had assaulted women. He then redirected attention toward Nicki Minaj's family history, referencing her brother's past conviction and suggesting she had knowledge of it long before it became public. He also claimed she paid for his legal defense, introducing a controversial layer to an already tense exchange. This type of response wasn't new. In previous public disputes involving Nicki, critics frequently brought up her relatives' legal issues. It had become a recurring counter-argument, often used to discredit or deflect attention from other topics. Meek continued, stating that she had threatened violence through her partner and suggesting that many people within the industry believed she had a toxic reputation. He added that these revelations were part of why he distanced himself from the relationship. Nicki Minaj, however, responded with sharp allegations of her own. She claimed Meek had physically assaulted a family member, stating he had recorded the act. She also alleged that he had physically attacked her in the presence of his own mother, resulting in a hospital visit. These allegations painted a much darker picture of their past. Furthermore, she accused him of using high-profile industry relationships to regain a sense of toughness and credibility. She then made a claim that his legal team had been approached with an alleged demand for $20 million to drop charges, implying deeper layers of manipulation within the situation. These statements marked the point where Nicki fully pushed back against the narrative, offering a dramatic shift in tone and content. The back and forth had moved well beyond personal grievances and into a zone of public confrontation with high emotional and reputational stakes. It was ultimately confirmed that Meek Mill was the individual Nicki Minaj had been referencing in her claims of past abuse. Meek responded publicly with strong denials, saying, "Y'all saying surrounded by bad guys, talking what? Stop playing." He accused her of making strategic accusations at a convenient time, stating that her career was faltering and that her intent was to damage his. He didn't stop there. Meek continued by criticizing the music industry, claiming it had enabled toxic individuals to maintain influence for far too long. He expressed frustration that certain behaviors were overlooked due to industry politics, declaring, "I'm powerful and never scared to speak up." He firmly stated that he does not and would never hit women, and requested that his name not be associated with his former relationship during press runs for his upcoming album. He described the ongoing attention as devil's tricks, emphasizing that he was in a new relationship with a pregnant partner and that revisiting the past in public was inappropriate and embarrassing. He then exited the conversation with finality. His message sparked intense reactions across the internet, igniting widespread discussion. But the larger issue this situation raised was how frequently public disclosures of abuse are met with skepticism. Many questioned the credibility of Nicki Minaj's claims, citing the timing and the absence of earlier public statements. Unfortunately, this pattern is not new. Survivors of abuse, especially women, often face public doubt and victim blaming when they speak out. particularly if time has passed or if no formal charges were filed. A recent parallel came with Megan Thee Stallion's case involving Tory Lanez, where despite physical evidence, including bullet fragments in her leg, public discourse was filled with skepticism. This pattern highlights the systemic challenges that continue to plague how abuse allegations are handled in public and in media. What made this situation even more intense was how public it all became. The timeline of their fallout wasn't just whispered in tabloids. It played out across social media, through cryptic posts, explosive tweets, and resurfaced footage that painted a disturbing picture. What began as subtle shade gradually escalated into an online war, pulling fans, media, and even fellow artists into the chaos. The cease and desist letter Meek Mill sent sparked a new level of attention. It didn't confirm guilt, but it certainly fueled speculation. Many began combing through past interviews, music lyrics, and public appearances to piece together the reality behind the headlines. Old videos that were once brushed off as awkward suddenly felt like red flags in retrospect. And then came the arguments, the accusations, the blurred lines between music drama and real-life conflict. It wasn't just about a breakup anymore. It became about control, legacy, public image, and whether or not accountability could be demanded through a digital lens. For fans, it was a storm of uncertainty. For observers, a case study in how unresolved issues can resurface years later, amplified by fame and a global stage. As more information and claims emerged, it became clear this wasn't just a spat between exes. This was a long-buried fracture, now split wide open under the weight of years of silence and suspicion. And while it's hard to say whether closure will ever truly be achieved, one thing is certain. The truth has a way of rising, no matter how long it takes. What complicated everything further was the timing. Nicki's docuseries announcement didn't just surface randomly. It arrived at a moment when conversations around abuse, accountability, and celebrity silence were louder than ever. Across the industry, more artists were speaking out, addressing the trauma they'd kept hidden for years. So when Nicki included that emotional snippet, it didn't just feel like a personal reveal. It felt like a larger statement. Her delivery was subtle. No names, no direct accusations, but the impact was unmistakable. Fans weren't just hearing an experience, they were watching an artist reclaim her narrative. And with Meek Mill's legal team stepping in so quickly, that unspoken tension erupted into a media frenzy. Suddenly, everything she didn't say became just as loud as what she did. As the situation unfolded, it opened a broader conversation about how fame, power, and public loyalty often complicate the ability to speak openly. Social media turned into a courtroom where fans dissected past behavior, body language, and lyrics, hoping to determine the truth. And what emerged wasn't just speculation. It was a demand for clarity, for resolution, and for the industry to take these allegations more seriously. What became clear through all this was that fame doesn't erase trauma. And no matter how long ago something happened, the emotional toll lingers. For Nicki, revisiting the past may not have been about revenge, but rather about finally being heard, understood, and supported in a space where silence was once the only option. Even after Tory Lanez was found guilty in court, skepticism toward Megan Thee Stallion persisted. Many still questioned her claims, showing just how common it is for women, especially black women, to not be believed. This same pattern surfaced when Nicki Minaj spoke up. Social media became a divided space, with some voices criticizing her timing and accusing her of lying for attention. One comment read, "Do y'all honestly think if Meek had really hit Nicki, she would have waited this long to speak on it?" Others echoed similar sentiments, suggesting she had ulterior motives or that her career had declined after other artists rose to prominence. Despite the tone of these responses, they reflect a larger problem in the culture: how quick the public can be to dismiss abuse allegations even without proof of innocence. However, there was also significant support. Many came to her defense, highlighting the inconsistency in how society tells women to speak out about abuse, yet then criticizes them when they finally do. Supporters wrote things like, "Y'all be telling women to speak up about abuse, but because it's Nicki, now she's supposed to stay silent and move on?" Others pointed out the clear double standard in how Meek Mill's statements were more readily believed than hers. What's most important here isn't whether one agrees with every move Nicki has made, but recognizing that no one deserves to be harmed, especially not after enduring trauma at a young age. The truth is, she shared her story, and in doing so, stood firmly in her experience, despite the backlash. Whatever happened in that relationship, it's clear she has moved on and is now in a much different place in her life. And speaking of messy situations, the next story is just as wild. So if you've made it this far, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to stay locked in for the next chapter, and don't miss the breakdown in the video that's up next. You're not gonna wanna skip this one.